What's up?
What's up guys, welcome to another video. So in this video we're going to answer the question, is Thunder Wave Raiden a viable character now? Because before Aftermath it was pretty clear that this variation of Raiden was just good. Some people thought Raiden was good, I don't really think it was ever that great, it was okay. But everyone knew for sure that this variation wasn't all that good. It was just kind of like a weird zoning, teleport, runaway, annoying variation. And that's pretty much all it had, but they actually gave it a lot of buff with the Aftermath patch. So what exactly did they do that was notable? Well, they made forward 2 plus 2, which is actually pretty cool. Give him a forward advancing plus frame. It is a high, but it is decent, and I'll get into why it's actually pretty good. His forward 3 mid now ends in an overhead. It didn't used to. Why that's good, it makes a forward 3 stagger even better. And every stagger that has an overhead follow-up after it is actually a really good stagger because it forces your opponent to want to stand block, and that reduces the time they have to react to whether or not you're going to stagger or go through the full string because they're worried about blocking the overhead. So that opens up like stagger into grab or stuff like that. So it makes it a little bit better. Not a big deal, not game breaking or anything like that for Raiden, but it's a little bit of a buff. Storm Cell is not breakable. What do I mean by not breakable? It's not an armor breaker, but if you're getting hit by it, you cannot break during the hit animation. So I have breakaway to fast, so while she's being hit, even though she's in the air, I have time to do another hit before Cassie is able to break away, so it gives you more guaranteed damage. Now it doesn't fix all his problems like I'll get into in a little bit, but it does help a bit. This one's not a big deal. His low string, he can finish the last hit on block, which you used to not be able to. You used to be able to do it on hit. I mean, it's fine. It's minus 16, has good spacing. Not that many characters can punish it. So it's a good tool, but I mean, I want to show you this. Like, you know, there's still a gap there that you can flawless block up to it. And when you flawless block, it's minus 16. Now, granted, he can still special cancel it, but come on. Raiden doesn't even have any safe special moves in this game, so if he tries to do something like this or whatever, that's like minus 22, still unsafe. So if you flawless block that, there's no way for him to really make it safe anyway. So that string is pretty much a bust, and the only thing that makes him a viable character in my opinion is his mix with his back 1 mid, because his back 1 mid, now it's either a grab, or is he going to go into Storm Cell, or go into Stagger. So I'm going to go over each of these buffs and how they make them better if they do at all. But just make sure to stick to the end of the video because the last part I'm going to cover is this back 1 mix. And I actually found option selects and how to deal with most of those options. So if you're having trouble with it, you're definitely going to want to check that out. But anyway, let's move on. So Raiden, even though he was not that good of a character, he still had some strong suits to him. He did have a legit overhead low mix. He has back 2 overhead, 19 frames, very hard to react to, hella unsafe. I mean, you have to hit it twice for a crushing blow. That's very unlikely to happen, but it could have happened. And he does have a low starter. Now, I just mentioned it does have a flawless block gap to it, but still, he had at least legit 50-50 mix. He has a 7 frame punish in his 1-2-1. Not that great. I mean, it does have a crushing blow at the end, so it is good in that way. You can get unbreakable damage, but I mean, a lot of characters have that anyway. But it's something because a lot of characters only have like 8 frame high, so at least he has that going for him. And he has pretty decent damage. It's not all that bad. It's pretty like average, I would say. And that's not optimal. He can get a little bit more, but he's not like a damageless character. He can get some damage on you, but that alone does not make him a good character. That's pretty much all he had in general. He didn't really have all that much. Now, with all these buffs they gave him, I consider him more of a mix-up character because really everything revolves around his back 1 mix. But anyway, let's talk about these changes one by one. Okay, his forward 3-2 now ends in an overhead. Like I said, it makes his stagger a little bit better. And this mid is one of his best mids, to be honest. It's a really good mid check, pretty good range. I mean, his back 1 is also pretty good too, but doesn't go as far. So forward 3 does go a lot further. And having it end in an overhead is pretty good. I know some variations he has like a low special move, so it's kind of a pseudo mix, even though I know you can fuzzy it in those variations. So it's something, it's not going to make him a viable character out of nowhere, but at least it's a little bit of a change in the right direction. Alright, now his forward 2 being plus. His forward 2 being plus is a very good thing because I think this character revolves around the back 1 mix. So being plus 2 by itself doesn't really mean much because remember, his back 1 is 11 frames. So if the Cassie player were to respond with a 7 frame high or like our 8 frame poke, that will beat Raiden from going straight into his mid. Because remember, when you got plus frames, you can subtract that from the speed of your move. His back 1 comes out in 11 frames minus 2, so it comes out in 9. So it will lose to 7 frame and 8 frame highs, and pretty much any poke in the game it will lose to. But of course it becomes a mind game. If the Raiden player thinks you're going to try to challenge, all he has to do is hit you with poke. And I'll just show you real quick, his poke is plus 10. He hits you with his poke, then he has free reign to do his mix because he's plus 10 and you can't do anything about the back 1. You have to hold that mix. And his forward 2 goes really freaking far, so it's a really far way to get in and get plus frames. Now, it is a high. You can duck it. You can duck it down to crushing blow. Just duck it and get your stand 1-1 punish or whatever. But it does help, and if you get those plus frames, you are able to possibly get your mix-up going. It's all a read. It's all a mind game. If the Cassie player thinks you're going to poke, Raiden can go straight for a grab and go for his back 1, the whole string mix shenanigans he has. So it's pretty decent. Not the best, but it's decent. So let's talk about the next buffs he got. His back 3-1, that one being able to do the full string. Like I said, that's decent. It's safe against most of the cast. But the problem is, like I mentioned, there's a flawless block gap there. So if there's a flawless block gap there, it doesn't really matter if you can finish the string. You're still going to get punished because they flawless blocked you. Either they're going to go for the up 2 and punish you, or they're just going to make you hella minus for flawless blocking and then get a big fat punish. And that leads into my next point. I did mention that the Storm Cell being basically unbreakable once it hits. That is very good for all of his confirms, except his back 3-1. You want to know why? Because his back 3-1, it launches you. So you can break as soon as the back 3-1 launches you, which means you can break before the actual Storm Cell hits you. And the Storm Cell is not an armor breaker, so it's not going to break your armor. So that means if you break away right away, you can still wake up and get a punish on Raiden, which I really hate that about this game, that you can break away and get a punish. But Raiden's one of those characters where you can't do anything about it. At least some other characters you can do like little different combos, or like you can kind of react during your combo if they break away or not. But for Raiden, this is just a simple hit confirm. You hit confirm with 2 hits and going in a Storm Cell. But like if the opponent's on it and breaks away right away, you're gonna get destroyed. So despite the buffs to Storm Cell and the buff to this string, the back 3-1 string is still completely useless in my opinion. Always flawless blockable. And even if you hit confirm off it because you're doing the 50-50 mix, the highly risky 50-50 mix to be honest, because both ways are hella punishable, even if you get the low to hit, they just break away and they get a punish. So basically, that string is absolutely useless. And that brings me to the last part about Raiden, his possible saving grace. The only thing that can really make him a usable character is back 1-2 mix. Because from this, he can do 3 different things you have to worry about. He can either stagger this, or stagger. Just basically stagger pressure into grab or to more staggers or whatever. He can finish the string, go for a grab, which you cannot duck block the grab. You have to neutral duck the grab, which leaves you to get open by this thing. He can do back 1-2 in the Storm Cell. So in theory, if you're trying to duck the throw, then the Storm Cell will hit you and then he can get big damage. Now there are OSs to deal with it, which I will show you in a second. But just negating those OSs, let's just say it's a legit 50-50, because I'm going to show you that it's actually not. But let's say it was. Even if it is a legit 50-50, it is still in your favor. It's not in the Raiden player's favor. Because look at this for 1 second. The command grab portion. How much damage that does? That does 90 damage. Only 90. If you guess right and you duck it and you get a down 2 crushing blow, that can be up to like 500 damage. And even if you don't do a crushing blow combo, like for example Cassie can do her 1-1-1 into the low gunshot, do her whole combo from there and get like anywhere from 250 to 300 damage depending on the character. Now let's think of the other option. Let's say if you decide to block and the Raiden goes for Storm Cell. Well, you can duck the last hit of Storm Cell, which means it's unsafe. And guess what? That means you can also get a full combo punish if you block Raiden's Storm Cell. So in both scenarios, you get full combo punishes. But it's not the same for Raiden. Now, if you predict the grab option and Raiden goes for Storm Cell, then he will get really big damage and that's when he'll get the big reward. But if you get hit by the command grab, and it's only 90 damage, like 9% barely of your health, that's a very little reward for the big risk, because him going for that grab, you can just duck it and get a down 2 crushing blow and absolutely blow him up for it. So already from there, the risk reward is in your favor. Now the way it gets interesting, if the Raiden player goes for like more staggers and stuff, the stagger pressure, go for grabs, maybe you're respecting the mix too much, he tries to stick in an overhead or low in there or whatever. That's the only way I can see it might be useful, but overall, it is still a guessing game, but it's a guessing game in your favor, so more times than not, you will beat Raiden in that situation. So just with that alone, before I even tell you how to actually deal with that whole mix-up and how you can beat like pretty much all the options, just from there, I would say Raiden is viable, he could win, but he's basically a 50-50 character, because what kind of neutral does he have? His fireball's not that good. Now granted, they did buff it, I forgot to mention, that you can really delay the enhanced version, so that can throw off your opponent a bit. Raiden does not have any real solid way to open you up, because even this mid, they buffed it. It used to be -9, but now it's -8, so not every character can punish it, but every single character can at least get a poke punish. Like, he just doesn't have all that much. But just this alone, I would say he's viable. Tournament viable, maybe if you're really good at making reads, but aside from that, I wouldn't call him all that good. But here's the thing though, you can actually OS most of these options. I would say, like, I went over 3 options he can do, right? The stagger, the kinda command grab, and him going for storm cell to get big damage. Now at any point, you are able to option select 2 options, so you can make it even more in your favor. So basically, you can make it so that you do the right action 66% of the time, and Raiden only has a 33% chance of guessing right. Now here's the most important thing to realize. You can OS Raiden going for storm cell and Raiden going for the command grab at the same time. Now the only thing with that is, if you're OSing both those options, you're more at risk at getting hit by, like, you know, stagger of this into grab or whatever. You are more open to that. So how would you OS this? Well, you gotta look at the frame data. So the storm cell, the startup of the storm cell is 13 frames, and the startup of the grab is 17 frames. So step 1 to this, when you're blocking this, you're going to be wanting to time it so you block the first hit of the storm cell. Now if you check, the storm cell has 3 hits to it. It has 1 mid, a second mid, and then the high. And you know the high, you can duck it. So okay, step 1 is you block the first mid of the storm cell. When you have the timing to where you block the first mid, for the briefest of moments, you just let go of block for the briefest of moments. And what does that do? That allows you to duck the command grab, because the command grab comes out in 17 frames. So basically what you're gonna do is, you're gonna block, unblock, and then block right away. It is very specific timing, but with training and practice, you can get it pretty consistent. So what would happen is, you block the first hit of storm cell, you duck the command grab, and then you block in time to block the second hit of the storm cell, and then of course by that time you could react to the fact that they did storm cell, and you can duck the third hit and get a punish. And if you see they went for the command grab, you already ducked it, you can just stand up and get your punish for it. Now I'm not gonna lie, that's very hard to do. Just recording myself doing it correctly 6 times in a row, I had to try like, 20 times, but now granted I only practiced for like, 15 minutes or whatever. So if you really spend the time in the lab really getting your timing down, you can get it pretty consistent. Now from, like I said, the only thing that would beat you from doing that is if you like do a stagger and then going for a grab or whatever. Now in theory you can beat all 3 options. Now it's very difficult to do, but this is how you actually do it. Now I've covered something called Eli Tech before. What Eli Tech is basically you press a button during block stun. So if the opponent were like to do a stagger, for example, because basically that's like an anti-stagger thing. If the opponent were to do like the full string, for example, your poke would not come out, and if the opponent were to stagger, then your poke would come out. And you can use the same concept here. If you use Eli Tech on the second hit of the storm cell, if you use it at that timing, it would allow you to poke your opponent if they like tried to do a stagger, and if they tried to poke you or grab after their stagger, your poke would come out and hit them. Now the only drawback of that OS, if the opponent were to go for the grab after the string, then you just punish it with a poke instead of getting your full combo punish. But that would also be the stagger. Like I said, if they stagger it, go for a poke, your poke would come out first. And of course, if they do the storm cell, you're pressing poke at the same time you're in block stun of the second hit of storm cell. And then of course, after that, you could just duck the third hit and get a punish. Now you are legit able to do that, but for me to actually show that, that's like, I don't know, I have to spend like an hour trying to practice that timing. Because it's crazy, you have to block at the exact time of the first hit of storm cell, unblock for a second, then you have to block right away and block and press poke at the same time. That's a lot of different options at once. It can be done, I promise you. It's a doable thing. It is possible, but it's impractical in my personal opinion. And doing that, you don't get the best possible punish if they go for the command grab. So personally, I'd rather OS the first two options, and if the opponent just staggers and goes for a grab, I'd rather just react with a tech or something like that, or just take the throw at worst case. And like I said earlier, you are able to OS pretty much any two options pretty easily. So let's say you wanted to OS a stagger and OS storm cell. Well, honestly, that is very easy. You can just do that on reaction. Just don't worry about the whole unblocking thing. Just stay blocking low. You can just look at the opponent. You see the storm cell doesn't come out. This crap is -8, so it's not really a good stagger to begin with. You can very easily react with a counter throw, react with the mid or whatever. And of course, if they do the storm cell, you have all day to react, duck it, and get a punish. And it's similar if you want to OS the grab and a stagger. So if the opponent goes for the stagger, you just immediately duck after the first two hits of the stagger. If the command grab comes out, you get a full punish. If it does not come out, again, you have plenty of time to react, to do your mid, a poke, or whatever before the Raiden player is able to move. Those two are based on reaction. The reason why you can't deal with all three options by reaction because you're so focused on the timing of blocking the first hit, unblocking, and blocking again. It's just too much going on, and by the time you're able to react to the opponent doing a stagger while focusing on all those little OS things you're trying to do, usually the opponent will be able to poke you first before you're able to react. But basically, you're able to OS any two options at any given time. And if you guess right, in most cases, Raiden's gonna take big damage because this crap hella unsafe. So let's answer the question. Is Raiden a viable character? Yeah, he's viable now. He's not useless, but I still would never use him in tournament. And honestly, I don't think anyone else would ever use this character in tournament because he's just a 50-50 machine mix-up game. That's all he is. But guess what? There's other characters that do it better than him. You're honestly better off playing Sub-Zero because that character has low overhead mix. Off both options, you can get full combo punishes. And Raiden don't got that. Raiden's got a little command grab that can get down to crushing blow punish if you guess right. He has a very risky storm cell, which can get him damage. But again, after the storm cell, yeah, he's guaranteed a little bit more damage than usual, but you can still break out of it. His low overhead mix, punishable, flawless blockable. Oh, I hit confirm into storm cell. Oh, you broke and you punished me. So that is pretty much useless. So, I mean, Raiden's better now. He's viable, but he's still pretty bad in my opinion. Well, anyway, guys, that's about it for the video today. If you guys enjoyed, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Follow me on Twitch, and I'll see you guys next time.